Welcome and thanks for joining our webinar, How to Increase Data Quality for Better Customer Experiences. I'm Kelly, Marketing Manager here at BitBang, and I'll be here to host the webinar today. Here with me, I have Gabriele Sibani, Account Executive at BitBang, and Mike Fong, Senior Consultant and Solutions Engineer at ObservePoint. Morning to you both.
Hi, morning, Kelly.
Hi, guys. Glad you're both here with me today. So I'll quickly go over a few housekeeping matters before we start. Firstly, thanks for joining us. We'll try to keep within about 35 to 40 minutes for the presentation, which will leave us time for any questions to be answered at the end. Please submit any questions you have in the question box below, and we'll respond to these at the end. You will see in the attachment section a couple of documents which will explain in some detail the tag governance framework. So please feel free to download this. The webinar will be recorded, so you will be able to view it on demand following our live session. So feel free to share the link with your colleagues who can't make it today. Any feedback you have on this webinar, we would love to hear from you. And finally, the icon in the center is just to say that we're all presenting from our home still today. So we're having to rely on our home broadband and signal. So if there are any slight glitches, please do bear with us. So for a quick overview, I will soon pass you over to Gabriele, who will cover the impact of data and data quality and why it's so vital for every business to get it right. After looking at some of the major pitfalls, we'll address why tag governance can really help you trust your data and make database decisions with confidence. Mike will then take you through what is tag governance with a quick little demo at the end, and we'll finish off with a question and answer session before summarizing the key takeaways. So without further ado, I'll pass you straight over to Gabriele. Thanks, Gabriele.
Thanks, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gabriele Sibani, and I currently work as account executive in BitBang. And I normally work as a designer and strategist for digital marketing projects, such as Analytics One. And I've been a long time designing measurement architecture. And so just a few words about BitBang. We have almost 20 years of experience in enterprise data-driven analysis and projects, and our mission is to help organizations by leveraging their data for reaching their business objectives. And we normally provide our experience and our best practices both on technical and on the strategical side. And we make that by partnering with best technologies as ObservePoint, and we make that at scale. And so since we are a data-driven company, we have always been concerned in data quality matters. And as we want to help organizations in getting outstanding business results, we don't only need data to work on them, but we have to consider that we have to find and leverage only the good ones, because we know that this makes a difference. So probably if you're here, you're already a bit concerned about the negative impact of a poor data quality or a complete lack of a data quality strategy. Market and researchers agree in estimating these big numbers for the last years, and last trends confirm and even state increasing negative impact on business results. But not only market, but even executive and managers with companies seem to be concerned by this bad quality topic. As you can see, a recent survey and researchers depict a scary landscape where decision makers themselves often don't completely trust data they're leveraging for their strategical decisions. And if they don't trust their own data, why clients are supposed to trust their company? So fortunately, it exists a wide-known matter called data quality management to deal with these issues. These processes and activities should keep data quality high through the whole data supply and decision chain. From literature, we know that data quality is ensured through main 6 categories or phases. Accuracy and completeness regarding the semantics for checking the data is correct and complete. Obviously, data needs to be relevant, otherwise it's useless and it's interesting for what we are going to see in a bit. And we need a validity as well. It is concerning the how we collect data rather than the what we are going to collect. And it must be time relevant for sure as well, or it becomes even dangerous to be used. And last but not least, obviously it has to be consistent to the context and to other data. It seems a big effort, but we know that it's very worth it. Here are some of the results we can get from that. You know that we can get better decision, we could better audience targeting, and we could be even more effective on content and marketing activities. In the end, we are improving our relationship with our customer if we have good data to work on.
I think we've just lost Gabriele, so he's going to join us in a couple of minutes. Please do bear with us.
I think that's the risk of working, everybody under lockdown, working from home. There's always, obviously in an office, you've got dedicated business quality sort of landlines. Whereas I think not this, this decade, I don't think everyone even has a landline in their home necessarily, because we all focus and depend on our mobiles so much.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, do you want to explain a little bit about yourself whilst we wait for Gabriele?
Sure. Yeah, why not? So hi, everybody. My name is Mike Fong. I'm a senior consultant and solutions engineer here at ObservePoint. I guess what I do at ObservePoint is I really understand the market. I talk to our customers and really anybody who has a stake in the market. We learn to understand the problems and essentially bring those that feedback together. Where is the market right now? What does the market need? And feed that back into our product team to allow us to build the products that will help solve those. And ObservePoint was originally founded to solve a data quality issue. So once Gabriele makes it back, I'll be leading the second half of this webinar to describe how ObservePoint can help. Do we have Gabriele back? No. Okay, I'll keep going. So ObservePoint was actually founded by John Pestana, who is one of the co-founders of Omniture, which now is known as the Adobe Analytics product. So ObservePoint's got a strong heritage in the analytics space, and John's actually one of his self-proclaimed nicknames is the Godfather of Analytics. I haven't had this verified by anybody else, but I think to have someone who is even who can even lay claim to that title is very strong. So I think Gabriele has returned.
Yes, welcome back, Gabriele.
Sorry, I have network issues and all the problem of the world in this moment. So sorry for the interruption.
Mike just explained himself.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I owe you.
We'll leave you to it.
Okay, So we were talking about, I was about to introduce some common issues we find normally. Those are all related to lack of strategy and a lack of joint and shared plan in order to deal with data quality projects. So normally the main fact is that it's very difficult to estimate the business impact of data quality lack or the value of a kind of improvement program. And so the business is difficult in finding money and effort to work on data quality projects as well. So we have a way to deal with those facts, and we want to start from the foundation. So we normally propose to our clients and prospects to start to the very base, so to the data collection phase. We know from research is that, and everybody knows that gathering data and ETL phases, normalization ones, get a lot of efforts and money. And so we want to start, and we want to avoid all the possible phases in such kind of work. And so we want to start assuring the quality of data starting from the data collection, because normalization effort increase with data volume, the storage space costs a lot, validating before collecting enable real-time automation, so if we want to leverage some automatic triggers, and in general, validating a source enable agile integration and break silos. And so we want to move in a direction where we are going to validate before collecting, or as we are collecting. And now with GDPR and other regulations, we're even crawling on narrow reach, because on one phase, we have all our aim and objective of knowledge towards the clients. We want to profile, to customize, to be flexible in our handling of their experiences. And on the other end, we have all the regulations or internal policies and so on. But this is a very good challenge for us because there's the competition. So if we are good in all the way we're going to approach the way we collect data, maybe we could do the difference between our competitors. And so our proposition and the data quality is not only based on how we collect and validate, but when and if we are collecting. If we start collecting only the needed, we can get better data and having more time to validate them and gather and use and getting a lot of wonderful insights. And so if we consider a coin, if we have on a face our desire to measure and profile, and on the other end, on the other face, we have to declare and comply. But there's only a kind of trade union for this, and it's the governance. So we want to propose and promote a kind of tag governance, so framework, so a kind of policy for ensuring the tags and the codes are firing when desired, where all the properties or variables are set properly, and complying with all the regulations and policies that our company or our relationship with the clients requires. And why we should do that? Because this could help in doing all the things that we already said, but we have to detect even performance issues. So if our tags, our measurement codes are increasing risk of problems in the experience, we want to provide better experience. We want to improve our ROI, and we want to save costs. And then, as I said, we want to comply and standardize processes. All these actions concur in creating and improving a stronger trust with our clients, and on the other hand, internally, a trustful data foundation. So, in the end, what we think is that quality is your only data strategy, because considering a shorter amount of data dealing with growing in this kind of scale, if we track and collect only what is really useful and we're going to validate what is necessary to get the best insights, we are going to act and win on a shorter set of data, but only on the ones that are relevant. On the other end, we have a phase of design strategy. We have to automate and scale up when we validate. We have to think omni-channel and customer-centric when we are going to integrate with other data. And on the other hand, we have to focus on KPI and data-driven results in order to have an implemented and going to keep on measuring all these results. This is in a kind of increasing value and commitment scale. So starting from a larger set of data with a strategy, we are going to act and win, going again, starting with another phase of measuring, because we are not ever finished measuring. And then, as the last point, before passing the word to my friend Mike, our suggestion is to do it at scale. So all these activities are wonderful. I have to say that they have cost a lot of time and effort, but they are really worth it, and they're going to provide outstanding results if they are doing that at scale. So if we are going to find a kind of tool or platform like ObservePoint, as we're going to see, could be that integrate with Principal TMS and MarTech solution, that can handle automatic auditing, that could give you alerts, smart probably or hopefully, and that can handle complex journeys, so avoiding specific customer journey in order to validate and assure them, and provide with some reports and letting you share these insights. And on the other end, support even app and mobile, that is a channel even with an increasing efficiency and interest on that. With all these capabilities, we could build really a data quality management program and a stack governance framework that can provide you the results you expect for your business. So thank you for your attention right now. Mike, it's up to you. Thank you for keeping the audience before.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Gabriele. It was no problem at all. So thank you, Gabriele, for really, I guess, outlining, very quickly what the problems with data quality are. It is, and also, one of some of your earlier slides outlining the value that can be gained by solving those data quality issues. So for those of you who've joined late, I'll just introduce myself again. So my name is Mike Fong, a senior consultant and solutions engineer at ObservePoint. ObservePoint ObservePoint is a SaaS software platform, and exists to work with our customers, our technology and our consulting team to help our customers really solve those data qualities that Gabriele outlined. And we love working with BitBang because they understand the value of the solution so well. They know the value of the data quality problem, and so we work very closely with them in Europe. Okay. So I'm going to talk about, firstly, the tech governance maturity scale. Kind of everybody who's listening in on this webinar should be able to sort of, anecdotally or just instinctively place themselves and their organization on this scale. So starting from the left, which is mostly reactive, and on the right, which is very strategic and forward-thinking. Organizations are all trying to move from left to right, and working with organizations like BitBang and ObservePoint, we can help you move towards that goal. So, of course, the reactive state is very much the worst case situation where data quality issues pop up in live, and then, of course, you have to react by solving the issues. Now, in the, I guess, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that would have been a very, very difficult task, because you would have had to ask your IT team to change a tag, maybe Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics, and often analytics would fall to the bottom of the pile. In modern times, of course, tag management systems allow digital analysts and data architects to do that much more quickly, allowing us a lot of agility, actually. And that agility is a double-edged sword because there are processes and safety checks in place that IT teams very formally adhere to, whereas digital analysts are much more agile, and we haven't got in so many places those formalities of peer review and checking. So that's the ultimate reactive state. That next circle, ad hoc problem solving, that's kind of goes hand in hand with the sort of third from left, manual spot checking. And this is, I would say, where most organizations are right now. That is, they know that data quality is an issue. They know that they're resource constrained as well. So that means the most logical thing is just to manually check the situations where you know problems have happened before, or to do ad hoc problem solving where you know there's a problem right now, but we have to actually troubleshoot and understand it before we can get to a solution. Conversion path monitoring, that's the next step up. And this is, as Gabriele mentioned, the further you go, you realize that spot checking isn't good enough, actually, checking one page or one interaction here, because it's actually a customer journey that you want to check, not just a single page load or a single interaction. And so our whole, I guess, holistic land on the home page through to, as far as you can go, a conversion point that allows you to check that much more holistically. But then it comes to the problem of actual ingesting that data. If you imagine a typical conversion funnel, if you were to manually check that, land on a home page, manually check that, add to cart, manually check that, go through the checkout page, manually check that, go through to an order confirmation page for a dummy order, manually check that. It's getting a lot of data to manually check and to keep all in a person's brain, or even to document on an Excel spreadsheet. And so that's where technology really comes in. So technologies like Observe Point will help move you from that center point through to the right, the strategic side. So automated tracking validation, that's what we provide. Process and workflow integration. So Observe Point and technologies like ours will allow customers to integrate with the Jira, the Microsoft Teams, and allow the digital analytics bug troubleshooting process to start working and living in your development team's QA process. Ultimately, what needs to happen in our industry is for quality assurance of digital to catch up with quality assurance of product development. If you think how much money is spent on a product development, and then how much money is spent on the QA for such a product development, and then think how much money is spent in marketing and MarTech, and think how much money is spent in MarTech QA, those ratios are completely different. I would say that organizations don't even think about spending any money on MarTech QA, but they would always put aside a pot of money for product and development work QA. So that's just a paradigm where the market and marketing teams need to catch up. So at that point, you've got the technology in place, you can start thinking strategically. And that's where all of our clients are working to. So let's move on. Oh, I thought I was in PowerPoint there, so I clicked the arrow on my keyboard, but it didn't quite work. Okay. So I guess the question is, do you need tag governance, or where are you on your tag governance scale? So if you can answer these questions confidently, so are there misconfigured tags on your website? So this refers back to Gabriele's presentation earlier. So misconfigured tags, these are tags which are present, but is the data inside them perfect? For Adobe Analytics users, are all your props less than 100 bytes, for example? For Google Analytics, do you have all the data you need if you're using GA3 and you've only got 5 custom dimensions? So, misconfigured tags really refers to tags which are not doing the job that your digital strategy needs them to do correctly. Are there unauthorized tags on your website? So this is a question of, it's twofold really. One is, are there old tags that your website previously needed but no longer needs, and it's no longer, potentially no longer partnering with that vendor? So we will call those legacy tags. And then the second half of this is piggybacking tags. Are there third-party tags which are loaded onto your website by third-party tags, which may be slowing things down for you, which may be taking data from your website. So these are very important things to know. So unauthorized tags, they're probably providing you with no value, but they are definitely, at the very least, slowing down your page and taking potentially sensitive data. So if we think back to Gabriele's ridge analogy, it's very much on the dangerous side of the ridge. You're off the ridge and you're falling down the canyon on the left. That is not providing any value, but providing risk. Third point are the duplicate tags on your site. So this is a bit less relevant than it used to be. But in the olden days, the duplicate tags used to cost you twice as much. They still do. But they used to double count your data. A lot of technologies now automatically have a deduplication sort of aspects to their technologies, so your data is no longer double counted. But if you send 2 page view tags from your homepage, well, that is that's a lot of tags you're sending, and that is costing you money if your vendor is charging you on a CPM basis. So it's always good to know that you're minimizing those. And it goes back again to Gabriele's point: track only what you need, and make sure it's done well. So duplicate tagging is very much not necessary. And then are there missing tags on your website? That's the kind of flip side of this whole tag presence angle. Missing tags are simply are important pages not tagged. In my career as a digital analyst, the number of times when we stumble across a page that actually doesn't have a tag, and also sadly, it's impossible to know that you have a missing tag in your reporting system because it's not in the reporting system. How can you report on something which isn't there? So that's why you do need an outside third party running and checking things at the point of creation of the data. That is, the tags being sent from your customers' browsers. That will help you provide the quality on those. Okay. So ObservePoint has come up with what we like to call the tag governance process. You could call it a circle or a hexagon, but in essence, we see there are 6 kind of stages to this process, and it's definitely a cycle. It's not just you go through all 6 and you're healthy. The tag governance process starts with planning. So, like all good things, they start with planning. And we like to say that any plan must start with a group of people who actually care about the plan. We've grandly called this the Tag Governance Council, but in essence, it is a group of leaders or stakeholders in your organization who have the position to actually execute on change, to decide on the strategy, and also to actually have a vested interest in the quality of the data. So we're talking about CMOs, CDOs, people who need a return on investment from that marketing spend, or a CDO, someone who needs to know that the data being sent from the website about their customers to third parties is secure. So we're talking about walking that ridge again. So what does this Tag Governance Council actually do? Well, firstly, they should actually design and document what they want the data to look like. So they should say, we need a tag for analytics. We've chosen this as our vendor. We need a tag for A/B testing. We've chosen this as our vendor. And once you've naturally chosen your vendors and you keep on top of that, then actually following through the later stages of the cycle become very easy. Second point, strategize. How will you test? If you know that you are an e-commerce website, you know that you want to run an ObservePoint audit, for example, on all your page loads and all your products, and you want to run simulated journey testing on your most important conversion journeys, and you want to prioritize those so that your revenue driving journeys are a higher priority test and more higher priority maintained than your less important ones, like, for example, an email sign-up or a help section journey, for example. So that's where we're moving into strategizing. So moving on to comply. This is kind of part and parcel of the planning stage as well. Comply is how you plan to comply with the regulations that are in place in your jurisdiction. So of course, you can't just do your testing. You have to document that you're actually doing your testing so that you could potentially show any authorities what you've done. So one of the features of ObservePoint is our 1 year rolling data warehouse. So you've always got 1 year's worth of data to refer back to. So if you come across a bug at some later point in time, you can look back and see actually when was that bug introduced and how do we need to improve our tests to make sure that that bug isn't missed again. Okay, when we talk about regulations, stop talking about GDPR. So GDPR is the European General Data Protection Regulations. There are equivalent things popping up around the world. California, I know there's some coming from Asia as well. So yeah, don't just talk about it. ObservePoint can actually support you in executing on that. So ObservePoint has reports to tell you where your data is going. ObservePoint can scan and check all your third-party requests for PII and many things. So I won't keep going on about that. Okay, deploy. This is the phase where actually is a very high-risk phase. So with all the good intentions in the world, you can plan and document. But if you actually do not execute because of time constraints, then this is that would be a shame, to be honest, because a lot of planning going in, documentation, and then for your analysts to simply say, we haven't got time to do the testing. It's a false economy, really, because if you don't put in place the testing, then the bugs come back to haunt you, and they take, you know, up to 100x more resources and time. And these are all costs to your business. One of our clients has done an anecdotal study, and they've said that they estimate that a bug caught in the QA process is 100 times cheaper to resolve than a bug caught on the live website. Once you factor in the amount of time it takes for your analytics team to be confused by the data, anomalous data, by the time you've figured the time it takes for those analysts to figure out that it's a bug, by the time they've communicated to the product team or raised the ticket in Jira, and then by the time the development team or the tag management team have to switch tasks mentally to go back to fixing that, not to mention the lost customer data and the lost opportunity cost of not being able to activate a solid data set, 100x. So make sure you actually do deploy. Okay. Part of that is testing in the low environment. So as I said, this analogy earlier with QA teams in product development, you don't just launch a product and then see if it works in the field. You test in your laboratory. You test your car in laboratory on a conveyor belt. You test your product in the staging environment. The same thing applies to digital analytics and MarTech. You should be testing in your pre-production environments, and ObservePoint can be configured to run in the pre-live environments. Okay, so then QA. So QA, this is really the phase where you're actually looking at everything you have. And it's not just look at a report and say, okay, everything's fine. It's how you look at reports and how you systematically pour through the reports to look for bugs. QA is also how you prioritize things. So for example, if a bug has happened before, then obviously it's likely, or it's much more likely to happen again. So this is how you kind of prioritize, okay? And then this forms a part of the circle. So integrating your plan back into the deployment phase. So this is that iterative learning. Okay, and then moving on to the fifth part of this cycle, I guess. And bear in mind that all of these are probably happening in tandem at the same time. Different parts of your team are actually sort of working on different parts of this cycle at any one time. So validate is really about looking for issues in your current implementation, and then also tweaking your QA process while you fix it. So as I said before, if you know a bug has happened in the past, then you should add that to your next testing plan. Whereas if you know that something is highly, highly unlikely, then again, you can deprioritize that. So you eventually end up with this checklist of unit tests and regression tests. And Observe Point's automation features allow you to run all these very quickly on an ad hoc basis or on a regular basis. The ad hoc basis really fits into the earlier slide. So to the bottom right of that cycle, those are the ad hoc. You do your testing as and when appropriate, for example, at the end of a sprint or when a bug is found. But the monitor, so that top left highlighted bubble there, monitor is about running things as background checks on your live environment. So Observe Point has the ability to provide ongoing real-time monitoring in your live environment as well. So this gives you a double whammy. You have your quality assurance in the staging, and you have your quality control in the live. And there's this constant feedback loop. And throughout that process, you should be improving your tests, improving your processes as well. The tests simply find the problem. How your organization reacts to that diagnosis is the true test of data quality management. If something happens, you put in place root cause analysis, so an RCA, to put in place the procedures to ensure it never happens again. It might be adding a certain process to your development team. It might be limiting the number of people who can publish in your tag management system. Either way, what you always hope for in quality assurance, regardless of if it's digital marketing or development, is you want a bug which has happened in the past to never happen again. And so over time, you're able to reduce the number of occurrences, which means you're able to reserve your resources for product development rather than bug tackling. And we call that technical debt. Once you're in a strong place of tech debt, then your team actually feel, your dev team and your tagging team feel very free to charge ahead with the projects that need to be done. Technical debt actually is a huge killer in many IT projects, as I'm sure you all know. Okay, so the point of automation, and Gabriele touched on this as well, that QA staging and the monitoring staging can be automated, as I said. The QA point, Observe Point has a strong set of APIs which allows you to trigger and run these tests as and when needed. So you might be using a continuous integration platform, for example, a Jenkins, or I don't know many other examples actually, but actually using an API, you can hook up to the Observe Point platform and you can automatically run the relevant tests as and when you are running certain scripts in your CI platform. We do also have many automation integrations with tag management systems. So this allows us to automatically run a relevant Observe Point test as and when you publish into your your tag management development environment or your tag management live environment. And so taking the brain work out of the actual execution of testing and putting the brain work into A, insight, and B, the design of the testing will allow customers to gain massive, massive value. Okay. So I've got about a quick 5-minute demo prepared, and we're going to look at just some of the very, very, I guess, highest level features. So if you bear with me for 1 minute. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen now. So what we are looking at is the results of a typical Observe Point web assurance audit. And an audit is basically a quick scan of an arbitrarily large number of pages. So for today's example, I've decided to show one of 50 pages. And immediately the value here is we can see that there are 50 different technologies actually in play on this website. So we can tell you what technologies they are. We can tell you how many pages contain each technology and how many pages are missing. So we're really talking about tooling here. So should a small local newspaper have 50 different technologies? Probably not. Do they have a large enough team to leverage 50 different technologies? Definitely not. Are those technologies actually complete? So Adobe Analytics is here on 47 pages out of the 50. So that's like 94%. So I mean, it's not a terrible percentage actually. It's quite good. But they have 5 different code versions. So we're talking about reports. We're talking about JavaScript, JS, 1.5 2.5 or 2.6 or whatever it's up to. Potentially, for smaller sites, they might even still be on the old H code. So ObservePoint can tell you all about this tooling, presence, incompleteness, and also version control, and also accounts. We can see that they do have one account, so that's one report suite ID for Adobe Analytics. If we look at Google Analytics, we can see that they have exactly one page with Google Universal Analytics, and that one page, there are actually 2 UA account numbers. So we can see at a glance that ObservePoint can provide a lot of value immediately. Tooling is a decision which can lower your cost base, improve the ROI on the ones you do choose. Many of our clients do reduce redundancy by removing tools which provide the same function. And of course, the fewer third parties you have, the faster your pages will load. Everyone knows that third-party tagging does contribute considerably to page speed, and does contribute negatively to page speed, I should say. Talking along that ridge, that data quality versus risk, ObservePoint will scan and tell you all the cookies that are available in your site or on your session. So in this case, we can see the cookie reporting for this website. And the most important things our clients can do immediately is just to take an index of what cookies they have on the site. This can be used to inform your cookie policy notice. What are the cookie values themselves? So of course, we don't want to be sharing PII in cookies. At least it should be encrypted. We definitely don't want to see email addresses or IP addresses or passport numbers or anything like that. Domain, of course, organizations need to be doing the due diligence on the domain owners of those third-party cookies. And then expiry date, of course, with Apple and Google making changes to their browsers and the way those browsers handle and save cookies and the duration, it's important that digital analysts are able to fully understand the duration of their cookies and then change those settings as required to comply with Safari's ITP 2.4. So ObservePoint has all these features to support our customers on the website. We also have all this data for applications. So for example, here's a sample application that we have. And what we can do is actually walk through the steps of an app and actually show all the tagging that is sent from that from each step of the app. So in this case, you can see Adobe Analytics and Telium are the packages that have been chosen by this application. Great. So that's a really whistle-stop tour of the features of the ObservePoint platform. Everything you've seen can be automated, run on a regular basis, or run ad hoc via API, and also in the pre-live environments. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we'll pop back into the slides. So I think that actually brings us to the end. So I think I'm going to ask questions now. Kerry, back to you.
Yes, thanks very much for that. It was very interesting introducing us to the tag governance process. I think that little demo does really help us kind of visualize how simple and valuable the tool can be. So thanks for that. That's great. We're a little short for time, so we'll jump straight into questions. If you haven't yet, do submit your questions in the box below, and we'll try and answer as best as possible. So let's have a look. So one question that's come through here is, it would be great to see a strong business case before investing in a tool like this. Is there some way to see some case studies?
Would that be for me or for Gabriele?
Give it a bash.
Okay, sure. So could you repeat the question again, please, Kelly?
Sure. It'd be great to do some strong business case studies before investing in a tool like this. Is there some way to see them?
Sure. So we do provide case studies as PDFs And also, some of our customers are happy to do like reference calls. So we haven't got them prepared. I haven't got them ready to hand to stick into this webinar. But what I can do is send those case study PDF documents out to the interested person who asked the question. But in general, we do have, so as I said, that one customer who mentioned anecdotally the 100x sort of lowered cost of finding a bug in pre-production as opposed to experiencing the bug in live. So that's one case study. Another example is where an e-commerce customer actually, they had their data layer detailing an incorrect level of stock for a certain product. So it was actually a category of products on a certain CMS template. They'd accidentally hard-coded out of stock onto the data layer. So it meant that when customers viewed those categories or that category, those products were always out of stock. So the add to basket button was actually grayed out, and that actually was false. There were piles and piles of those products sitting in the warehouse. So I think that's a really good example of how data quality can directly affect your bottom line. Well, actually two examples of how data quality can directly affect your bottom line. We're not even talking about decision making here. We're just talking about literally bad data quality making things impossible to sell. So we literally helped that client increase the bottom line by 1% or 2%, just because we activated an entire category for them. Another case study or an example, I guess, is we helped one retailer find that their cookie consent management platform actually wasn't effective. So even when customers chose not to accept cookies, those cookies would still come through anyway. So observe point scans were able to find that MarTech was still happening under those conditions. So yeah. So I think those are 3 great and very different examples. Does that work for you, Kelly? And Gabriele, do you have any ideas or any case studies?
A full response there. Thanks for that. Yep. As we're closing to time, I'll go quickly to the second question that's come along, and then we'll head through to the key takeaways. So how long does it normally take to set up and run a first audit brief? Gabriele, is that something?
Okay. Just for our experience with Observe Point, it depends roughly on the kind of website, but normally to set up the first audit on a public site, on a public area, it takes up to 30 minutes, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Mike, you want to give your opinion, but it's a quite fast process to set up the first audit. Then the fact is setting the rules, validating all of them, and maybe setting more complex journeys. That takes more time, but as we have said, the important thing is to design a strategic plan before starting auditing or testing. That's our experience. Yes, absolutely agreed. So a crawl or an audit can be set up in, well, it will take me about 5 minutes really, but I have been doing it for a long time. But Observe Point can scan pretty quickly, and we can get a lot of insight very quickly. And even without working on journeys or complicated acceptance criteria or rules, just one scan can provide so much value for our customers.
Great,
okay,
thank
Mike.
you.
It's because I'm a consultant, and so I reason not for less than 30 minutes tasks.
always buy yourself more time.
Thanks, guys. Let's head straight to the key takeaways then.
So just for bringing back home some takeaways, and we've said that the important thing is, and one of the main concern is, it's important to validate and assuring while collecting, and not afterwards in a big data phase maybe. And the challenge is not only what we are going to collect, but even when, if it's time relevant, if it's needed, and if we really need to collect that for compliance or for purpose like efforts. And the assurance is the omni-channel process by design. We cannot assure anything if we're not going to validate all the channels that we are available and all the data sources as well. And on our experience, it's really, really, really important to define a strategy, and the quality is the right one. Know that a strategy could be built on a bad data foundation on our experience. So Mike, if you want to go on.
Sure. So just 3 key takeaways from me. So the Tech Governance Council, whatever you call it, you need stakeholders that really care about the data quality and are empowered to affect those changes, whether it be providing more resources to the team to work on data quality, whether it be people who understand. It could be a CDO who cares deeply about the data, or in some cases risk officers. Risk officers really care about the risk of losing data and a big GDPR fine. Second, documentation. All of the best intentions are worthless unless you put your plans and your strategy down on paper and document the work that has been done, so that future team members can follow on without a month or two of handover on brain drain. And then thirdly is automate. As with all things in tech, the more you achieve and the more ambitious you are, the more complex it gets. And as complexity increases, you're going to need proportionally large automation to keep those complexities and the data quality, and also just the troubleshooting and the QA for everything in check. Automation allows your QA to scale with the complexity of your ambition, and then allowing the human element to maintain linear. It's very, very difficult to scale a human element. Teams going from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, that's simply not going to happen. So automation is so important for that. Okay, so that's my key takeaways, Kelly.
Great, thanks, Mike. So thanks, Mike and Gabriele, and thanks to everyone for checking in. Do get in touch with us, and keep an eye on our Bright Talk channel, as we do have further webinars planned, so it'd be great to see you again. But bye for now, and have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.